Once upon transmigrating into a novel, I became the daughter of the villainess. The CEO father's gaze was cold and full of disdain, just like her mother, only capable of framing others and feigning weakness to gain sympathy. Oh, really? In kindergarten, I raised my hand and beat the little bully who tried to pick on me until his face was black and blue. In elementary school, I gave a boy who tried to lift my skirt a concussion with a single hard hit. In middle school, I kicked a bully who tried to extort me so hard he broke several ribs. In high school, with a sweet smile but vicious intent, I grabbed the head of a girl who tried to bully me and shoved it into a toilet. My dad, who had cleaned up countless messes for me, sighed, "Maybe you should just frame others or play the victim for sympathy instead." I've transmigrated into a book, becoming the daughter of the domineering CEO male lead. You'd think the male lead would spoil me rotten like in the novels, giving me the moon if I asked for the stars. I looked up at my father's cold, disdainful gaze, his eyes filled with knowing mockery. I laughed inwardly. If only I were the female lead's daughter, but unfortunately, I transmigrated into the daughter of the original story's villainess, the one who drugged the male lead and ultimately succeeded, repeatedly scheming against the female lead. Later, the villainess completely enraged the male lead, who had her sent to a mental asylum after going mad. She jumped to her death, leaving behind 5-year-old me. At my feet lay scattered shards of porcelain. The nanny stammered nervously, "Sir, I was cleaning in the kitchen when I heard the sound of porcelain breaking in the living room." Perhaps the young miss accidentally. The relationship was severed with remarkable thoroughness. Crossing my arms, I said coolly, "I didn't. I was in my room earlier, and just a few minutes ago when I came out to get some fruit. I clearly saw Aunt Judy sweeping the floor in the living room." After sweeping, the housekeeper still had to mop. The living room is huge, and I refused to believe she could finish both sweeping and mopping in just a few minutes. The housekeeper's face turned pale instantly. Before she could even continue her defense, my biological father looked at me with the coldness and loathing one might reserve for inanimate objects, his voice resolute. "Stella, you're just like your mother, full of lies. Always framing others and playing the victim to gain sympathy. Are you out of your mind? You'd rather trust a hired, dishonest nanny than your own flesh and blood." I took a deep breath. "Stella, stay calm, control your hands and stay away from those porcelain shards. Otherwise, you won't be able to resist the urge to scratch that mocking face of yours with a shard." I curled my lips into a sneer identical to his paternal mockery. "That mother of mine, Mr. Cooper. Don't forget, I'm also your biological daughter. As the saying goes, to feed without teaching is the father's fault. Doesn't the majority of the blame lie with you?" A flicker of astonishment flashed in Bruce Cooper's eyes, as if he hadn't expected me to dare retort. He scrutinized me coldly. "You have the audacity to talk back." My eyes were equally chillingly indifferent. "So what? What if I talk back? Isn't what I'm saying the truth? We're both your daughters. Rachel gets to be cradled in your palm, while I, who've done nothing wrong, have to endure your indiscriminate accusations." Bruce Cooper sounded like he was hearing a joke. "Stella, how dare you compare yourself to Rachel?" Any ordinary child would have been pierced with grievances, their heart aching like a knife wound, upon hearing such words from their father. But I just smiled faintly, reached for the vase on the coffee table, and smashed it violently in front of him. Crash! Shattered porcelain fragments scattered everywhere. One piece flew up and accidentally cut the nanny's face. The nanny covered her wound in disbelief. Bruce Cooper's face instantly turned ashen. I clapped my hands and admitted outright, "That's right, it was all me. I smashed the porcelain, I broke the vase, I killed the person, and I blew up the earth." Bruce Cooper was nearly driven to fury by my rebelliousness. Raising his large hand as if about to strike my face, "Bruce, what are you doing?" A beautiful and delicate woman appeared at the door, with a pair of twins standing behind her. She stepped inside, and upon seeing the mess on the floor, her delicate brows furrowed involuntarily. "Luna, you're back." Bruce Cooper lowered his hand, his expression softening instantly before he shot me a cold glance. This wretched girl broke the blue and white porcelain, refused to admit it, and even accused the maid. Just now, she dared to smash a vase right in front of me. "Be careful not to step on the shards." Hearing this, the woman's frown deepened. Just as she was about to approach me, Bruce Cooper immediately stopped her. "Luna, stay away from her. I'm afraid she might hurt you." The woman ignored him. brushed aside his hand, crouched down to pat my head, and asked softly, "Stella, tell Auntie, did you break the blue and white porcelain?" My attitude toward the female lead was infinitely better than toward the male lead. Under Bruce Cooper's disbelieving gaze, my eyes quickly reddened, large teardrops welled up and fell, wetting my cheeks, as I choked out, "Auntie, it wasn't me, I was just in my room when I suddenly heard the sound of porcelain breaking, so I came out, then Dad said it was me who broke it, he said I only know how to lie and frame others, but I really didn't." I truly looked like a pitiful child who had been wrongfully accused, pouring out my grievances to someone I trusted. He wouldn't listen to my explanation, and just now he even wanted to hit me. I cautiously glanced at him, and upon meeting his fierce glare, I seemed startled, my body shrinking back as if terrified. Bruce Cooper never expected that I would act so arrogantly in front of him, addressing him with cold and distant, "Mr. Cooper," every time, yet in front of his wife. My attitude changed faster than flipping a book. I immediately handed him a cup of fragrant tea. Bruce Cooper seemed to want to explain, but the woman said calmly, "It's not your turn to speak yet." After hearing my accusations, the boy beside the woman spoke up crisply, "Dad, did you check the surveillance footage just now?" At the mention of surveillance footage, the nanny's lips trembled, and she clenched her sleeves tightly. Bruce Cooper was fuming. "What's the point of checking the surveillance? It was definitely her. Don't be fooled by her pitiful act." The little girl beside the boy tilted her head in confusion and said, "But Daddy, you didn't actually see sister, you drop it. The teacher said we shouldn't accuse others without proof. TSK, even a little girl has more sense than this dog of a father." After transmigrating into this book, I realized neither the female lead nor her two children were flawed. The female lead was kind, upright, resilient, and talented, never taking out her frustrations on me just because I was the daughter of the villainess. The two kids were highly intelligent, rational, calm, and sensible, and the male lead, which is me, this dad, is absolutely a nutcase. What on earth does the female lead see in him? His blockhead or his donkey-like temper? Under the female lead's insistence, Bruce Cooper had no choice but to pull up the living room surveillance footage. The footage showed the nanny cleaning and humming in the living room when, in a moment of carelessness, her elbow knocked against the blue and white porcelain. The vase wobbled a few times before crashing to the ground and shattering. A flash of panic crossed the nanny's face. After glancing around and confirming no one was in the living room, she hastily grabbed the broom and rushed into the kitchen. At that moment, I in the surveillance footage also came out upon hearing the loud noise. Just in time to bump into Bruce Cooper returning from work. The truth was out. Seeing her scheme exposed, the nanny immediately knelt before Bruce Cooper, her voice trembling with tears. "Sir, I was wrong. I lost my mind and falsely accused the young miss. Please don't fire me." Bruce Cooper, thoroughly humiliated by a servant's antics, was seething with rage, though his expression remained composed. The veins on the back of his hands bulged, his chest heaved with suppressed fury, and his thin lips curled into a cold sneer as he spat, "Get out, you're fired, don't ever come back." A glint of cunning flashed in the nanny's eyes, though her face remained streaked with crocodile tears. She feigned reluctant resignation, preparing to make her helpless exit. Just then, I spoke up, like a scrawny little beast mustering its courage. "But shouldn't someone pay for damaging the master's property? This porcelain vase was bought by Dad at an auction for a full 8 million. At the mention of 8 million, the nanny's legs gave way, and she crumpled to the floor. I turned my gaze to Bruce Cooper, my face the picture of innocence. "And, Dad, you once said that when you do something wrong, you should have the courage to admit your mistake. I told you I didn't do it, but you wronged me. Shouldn't you apologize to me, you?" Bruce Cooper's face turned bright red. Clearly, he didn't dare to yell at me in front of his wife and two children. So he shot me a threatening glare instead. As the CEO, it seemed highly unlikely he would swallow his pride and apologize to a 5-year-old like me, even if he was the one in the wrong. But I've had enough of this scumbag father of mine for a long time. If we usually kept to ourselves and minded our own business, I wouldn't have such resentment toward him. But he just had to provoke me whenever he saw me. And today he even accused me without any evidence. Expect me to back down? Dream on. "You hypocrite, Auntie, woo. Dad wronged me, and now he won't even give me an apology." I cried so bitterly, so mournfully, tears streaming from my eyes like a flood bursting through a dam. My looks are no less attractive than Rachel's. My reddened eyes, snow-white cheeks, and slightly parted pink lips from distress make me especially pitiable and heart-wrenching when I cry. The kind-hearted female lead couldn't bear it any longer. She bent down to pick me up, gently patting my back. "Stella, don't cry, it's all your father's fault, Bruce Cooper." Bruce Cooper jolted. Luna, seeing the sharpness hidden in his wife's expression, Bruce Cooper knew there was no escaping this apology. He pursed his lips and said to me, "I'm sorry, Stella, Dad was wrong. I shouldn't have wronged you." I wiped my tears and replied, "To err is human. As long as you realize your mistake, Dad, that's enough. Just don't wrong me again next time." After the female lead and the two children returned to their room, even though Bruce Cooper knew he had wronged me, his expression shifted from guilt to a cold sneer as he said, "Stella, you're quite the schemer, winning this round." I felt quite pleased. "Mr. Cooper, I appreciate your sportsmanship." Bruce Cooper stormed off in anger. Damn it, Bruce Cooper just can't stand me. My supporting role mother really hurt him deeply, and as a result, he's prejudiced against me, labeling me with a series of one-sided tags like White Lotus, scheming bitch, vicious, affected, and playing the victim for sympathy. What the hell is this nonsense? I am me, and the villainess is the villainess. I am an independent individual. Why should I be unjustly implicated for no reason? As for the nanny, not only did she dare to mock him, but she also forced him to apologize to me. Given Bruce Cooper's vindictive nature, the nanny's consequences would go far beyond just paying compensation, but this is none of my business. Bruce Cooper thought this matter was just an ending, but little did he know it was the beginning. 2 days later, he showed up in the kindergarten teacher's office with a dark expression, gritting his teeth. "Stella." I sat on a small stool, swinging my legs. The teacher, seeing this parent about to erupt and ready to give me a complete childhood, quickly intervened. "Mr. Stella's dad, calm down. Hitting a child is useless. It only fuels their rebelliousness." But Bruce Cooper continued to glare at me fiercely, as if I weren't his daughter but his sworn enemy. "Stella, explain what you've done." With an innocent expression, as if completely unaware of any wrongdoing, I replied, "Nothing much, just played a little joke on a classmate." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched as their gazes swept over the boys with bruised faces. Especially the chubby leader. His face was so swollen even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. "And you call this just a joke?" At that moment, the parents of the chubby boy and the other children arrived. "My dear grandson, how did you get hurt like this? Which motherless bastard did this to you?" An old woman, her voice trembling with tears, hugged the chubby boy. "Grandma, it was Stella. Stella hit me, wah." The boy burst into sobs. The old woman released her grandson and turned around, scanning the room before fixing her gaze on me, unharmed and about the same age as her grandson, her face twisted with fury and malice. "You little bitch, are you Stella?" Hearing such vulgar language, the teacher felt a wave of dizziness. It seemed this matter wouldn't be resolved easily. I didn't even glance at her. Such people are stubborn, old-fashioned, overly indulgent with their children, and foul-mouthed. Once she's set her mind on you, no amount of explanation will help. It's just inviting trouble. I simply looked at Bruce Cooper with calm indifference. "This time, what choice will you make? Is it the same as last time, siding with outsiders to stab me in the heart without asking for the reason, or standing by my side to clear my name? All right, you little bitch, let's see how I deal with you." The old woman twisted her obese body, cursing obscenely, and her sharp nails were about to scratch my face. Just as I was trying to find an angle to dodge, a tall figure blocked her. It was Bruce Cooper. The calm voice carried an unhurried and unassuming presence. "This parent, she is my daughter. Isn't it a bit inappropriate to lay hands on her in front of her own parent? So you're her parent?" The old woman's triangular eyes scrutinized Bruce Cooper up and down, her voice shrill. "She hurt my precious grandson. You look decent enough. How could you raise such a child? If you won't discipline her, then this old woman will do it for you today." Bruce Cooper said coldly and sternly, "The matter isn't clear yet. If your child threw the first punch, my daughter was merely acting in self-defense. At home, behind closed doors, he could scold me however he wanted, but this was out in public, in front of so many people. This daughter of his bore his label. He still had his pride to maintain. I don't care, look at this little brat. Not a single scratch on her. While only my precious grandson got beaten, the old woman wouldn't let it go. Bruce Cooper couldn't be bothered to waste more words on her and instructed the teacher, pull up the surveillance footage from that time. The teacher immediately nodded in agreement. As it turned out, the surveillance footage was the most irrefutable evidence in the classroom. I saw a few mischievous chubby kids sneaking around, holding a caterpillar in their hands as they approached my seat and slipped it between the pages of my textbook. Meanwhile, the surveillance footage clearly captured my figure standing outside the window, witnessing the entire prank unfold. After class began, those little boys eagerly anticipated my terrified scream when I opened the book and discovered the caterpillar. Yet I calmly used a pencil to flick the caterpillar away and tossed it into the small trash bag by my feet. What was I thinking at the time? Just childish pranks, not worth bothering with. Little did I expect them to escalate. Shifting my chair during class, stationery mysteriously disappearing from my desk, milk cartons torn open at random. Damn it, the tiger doesn't show its might, and you mistake it for a sick cat. When they grinned and tried to pull my braid, all the old and new grudges welled up inside me. I laughed angrily and slapped them backhanded. I hit the chubby little ringleader the hardest. His face swelled up like a pig's head. The truth came out. The old woman couldn't hold her ground and complained. My good grandson was just playing a little joke on your daughter, and this little girl really holds a grudge. Bruce Cooper checked the surveillance footage, his expression turning grim. Stella was just playing a little joke on them too. Just some minor scratches. Why are you so worked up? The old woman plopped down on the ground, throwing a tantrum. I don't care. I don't care. Your daughter beat up my good grandson like this. You must pay for the medical bills. Bruce Cooper thought for a moment and surprisingly nodded in agreement. My daughter was wrong to resort to violence. We'll compensate. I stared at him in disbelief. Compensate what? Compensate your mother's ass. They were the ones who bullied me first. Not only did you not back me up, but you even paid the perpetrator's medical fees. Just as the old hag was showing a satisfied expression, Bruce Cooper smiled faintly. I can pay the medical expenses, but since your grandson bullied my daughter first, shouldn't you compensate for her emotional distress first? Just when everyone thought the farce was about to end, they didn't expect another twist. The old woman immediately bristled at the mention of emotional distress compensation. What emotional distress compensation? I've never heard of such a thing. So, you're trying to scam me, is that it? Your grandson bullied my daughter first, causing her severe psychological and emotional harm. Shouldn't you compensate for that? But your daughter hit my precious grandson. But didn't I say I'd cover the medical expenses? The corner of my mouth twitched as I watched my father, a CEO who handles multi-million-dollar contracts daily, engage in a heated argument with this petty old woman. In the end, Bruce Cooper, the ruthless capitalist, lost his patience. With a single threat, isn't your son working at company name? One call from me and he's fired. The old woman immediately backed down. Bruce Cooper took me to the car. Along the way, we remained silent, exchanging no words. This time, Bruce Cooper was indeed on my side, but would I accept him because of that? No, I, being the vindictive one, saw the child's parents hadn't arrived yet. He was furious, with a face full of certainty, accusing me. It's you again, isn't it? You're behind this mess. I remained expressionless, still having nothing to say to him. As soon as I got home, I immediately threw myself at the female lead, whimpering and seeking comfort. She patted my back sympathetically and scolded him. Stella was bullied, and you didn't even comfort her, just left her out in the cold like that. Is this how you act as a father? Bruce Cooper looked at me angrily and helplessly. Stella, you're just like your mother after all, only the situation is completely reversed. Your mother played the victim in front of me to gain sympathy, then framed my wife, and you're playing the victim in front of my wife to gain sympathy, then making things difficult for me. You truly live up to being mother and daughter. Well done. I feel the two children of the male and female leads are quite different from ordinary kids, not just in terms of high intelligence, but also in how they remain composed toward me, who's already taking away some of their mother's attention, showing basically no hostility. You must understand, children at their age, no matter how precocious they are, still have a strong possessive desire for their mother. Sometimes they even exclude their own biological siblings, let alone a girl like me who has repeatedly sought help from the female lead and shares the same father but a different mother with them. I was puzzled. Are the children of the male and female leads just that extraordinary? No, it must be the female lead's good genes. It has nothing to do with that idiot male lead, I thought calmly. In the living room, Lucas Cooper had a laptop resting on his legs, his fingers flying across the keyboard as lines of code streamed from his fingertips, only to vanish swiftly at the end of the screen. Noticing me staring intently at him, Lucas Cooper paused his typing, his youthful, crisp voice tinged with curiosity. Want to learn, but this might be a bit challenging for you. It's best to start with the basics of hacking first. Thank you, I don't need it. I picked up a kindergarten picture book next to me and covered my face. No. Although I have an adult soul, some talents are innate. How could I possibly compete? I can't compete. The future renowned hacker L is still way out of my league, but I'm a bit curious. What are you up to now, Lucas Cooper? Fixing my dad's company firewall. Their system got hacked by a rival company a few days ago, and none of their tech team could handle it, so my dad came to me for help. Bruce Cooper, you sure know how to make use of people. I got along quite well with the female lead and the two kids, but Bruce Cooper and I just couldn't stand each other. He mocked me with sarcasm, and I rubbed salt in his wounds. He gave me backhanded compliments, so I turned around and pinned the blame on him. He hurled insults at me, so I straight up stole his wife. It's been a long time since I last slept with you. Let me tell you a bedtime story tonight. The three children lined up in a row, gazing eagerly at the female lead. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom where a queen lived, and she had a magic mirror. The content of the story isn't important. What matters is the person telling it to us. Since the male lead got together with the female lead, not to mention me, even Lucas Cooper and Rachel rarely get to sleep with their mom anymore. The petty and jealous Bruce Cooper. While the female lead wasn't paying attention, the two kids gave me an approving look. Well done. Now, our dad must be sleeping all alone in the study. Miserable and pitiful, right? He 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 he. A gentle and melodious voice lulls us into dreamland, ensuring a peaceful night's sleep. Both Lucas Cooper and Rachel possess exceptional intelligence, leading Bruce Cooper to consider having them skip grades in elementary school. The female lead, Luna, refused. She didn't want to put such pressure on the children. She preferred them to have a normal childhood, to experience different stages of life step by step like ordinary children, to slowly appreciate the scenery along the way, and to develop their own thoughts and plans. Bruce Cooper doesn't think so. He believes that with such high IQs, his children shouldn't waste so much time in elementary school. Moreover, if they follow the standard schooling process, the intellectual disparity with their classmates might make them feel bored and disengaged. Placing them among peers of similar intelligence could lead to greater progress and boost their confidence. Luna, how about we ask the kids? Bruce Cooper, sure. Although that's what he thought, the child's wishes were still more important. Lucas Cooper and Rachel turned their gaze to me after hearing their parents' words. I was about the same age as both of them, and in terms of normal schooling stages, we should have been in the same grade. Lucas Cooper, Sister Stella, would you like to skip a grade with us? Rachel also looked at me with bright eyes, appearing quite expectant. Before I could even speak, Bruce Cooper scoffed disdainfully, as if hearing some kind of joke. Her, skipping grades, she'd be lucky not to drag the whole class down as it is. Can't you go a single day without making me miserable? Is that too much to ask? I sighed with feigned resignation. Indeed, who could blame me when my bloodline's genes are so inferior? Can't help it. Intelligence is hereditary. Bruce Cooper's smile vanished, his eyes blazing with anger. Stella, who the hell are you talking about? I picked at my ear. Oh, I didn't name any names. Dad, why are you in such a hurry to take it personally? It looked like we were about to start bickering again. Luna and the two kids, long accustomed to the constant clashes and mutual jabs between Bruce Cooper and me, stepped in to mediate as usual. Bruce, calm down. She's still young and doesn't know any better. Sister Stella, that's just how Dad is. Don't take his words to heart. After calming both of us down, Lucas Cooper asked again. I shook my head. I have my own plans. I don't want to skip grades for now. Bruce Cooper kept chattering non-stop. What do you mean, don't want to? You mean, can't, right? Ow, ow. Ow, that hurts. Luna gritted her teeth and twisted his ear. Can you just shut the hell up, at your age, still arguing with your daughter? Where's your shame? Rachel mused. Fine, I won't skip grades either. Lucas Cooper agreed. Same here. Bruce Cooper refused to give up, pleading earnestly with his two precious darlings. You two really won't skip. Stella's just not smart enough to handle it, but you could access much better learning resources. My fists are already clenched. It's your damn IQ that's lacking. Before I transmigrated into this book, I was directly admitted to the nation's top-ranked university, effortlessly winning various scholarships and first prizes in academic competitions. Stupid CEO. Stupid Bruce Cooper. No matter how much Bruce Cooper tried to persuade them. The two children remained adamant about studying with me and refused to skip grades. Bruce Cooper was furious. It's fine. Your anger brings me joy. In the blink of an eye, the long years slipped away like sand tightly held in one's hand, silently and unnoticed. I attended elementary school with Lucas Cooper and Rachel, and we were in the same class. Lucas Cooper appeared as a cold and aloof guy in front of others. Rachel, on the other hand, was a sweet and adorable girl. Perhaps due to the protagonist's innate charm, they quickly attracted a group of young admirers. I was much more unlucky. I attracted a pervert. When Bruce Cooper showed up at the teacher's office yet again, he was completely unfazed. Bruce Cooper's exhausted eyes and numb soul were screaming, Stella, can you just stop causing trouble for once? Lucas Cooper and Rachel, seeing their father's expression turn grim with undercurrents beneath the calm, immediately stepped in front of me. Rachel. It's not Stella's fault. Lucas Cooper, that asshole almost lifted Stella's skirt. Bruce Cooper's teeth ground audibly. Stella, is this your reason for giving him a concussion? I openly admitted. Otherwise, you can't possibly think it's my fault just because I wore a skirt, can you? If my father dared to entertain thoughts like, if you hadn't worn a skirt, why would he have lifted it? Or, who the hell told you to wear a skirt? Serves you right. I guarantee he wouldn't have an easy time in the coming days. How is this any different from the notion that, you dress so seductively, you must be trying to lure men? I know I'm very pretty. When I get a new skirt, I love looking beautiful and want to show off my beauty. Is that wrong? Yet there are always those who, to satisfy their own selfish desires, seek to drag the freely blooming, delicate roses into the mud. But they forget, roses have thorns too. They won't stop until you're left bleeding and bruised. Roses won't wait helplessly for destruction, and neither will I submit to being trampled upon. Bruce Cooper deeply felt that talking to me was like stepping into a pit. He couldn't be bothered with me anymore and turned away. First time awkward, second time familiar. He cut through the mess swiftly and soon left the other parents speechless. After resolving the matter, he took the three of us home. On the way, I asked casually, Mr. Cooper, do you also think it was my fault? Bruce Cooper rolled down the window and exhaled a puff of smoke. The hazy gray mist enveloped half of his profile, giving him an air of weary decadence. Hearing my words, Bruce Cooper let out a cold laugh. If it wasn't your fault, whose was it? My smile froze, and my eyes darkened. Couldn't you have done it more cleanly? Couldn't you have found a blind spot in the surveillance before hitting them, right in front of everyone? You can't even deny it. Do you know what I was doing when your homeroom teacher called? I was in the middle of a meeting. Bruce Cooper glared at me furiously. Tomorrow, no, tonight, mark my words. Everyone in my company will know that my daughter got called in because she gave someone a concussion. Bruce Cooper grinned through gritted teeth, his face contorted. Your mother is truly brilliant, using this method to get back at me. All right, I can accept that reason, but I'll dare to do it again next time. I've come to realize just how deep Bruce Cooper's stupid prejudice against me runs. No, he's always been like this to me. Back in kindergarten, when I earned many little red flowers and certificates, Bruce Cooper didn't care at all. Any kid with hands can get kindergarten red flowers and certificates. In elementary school, my grades were consistently tied for first place with Lucas Cooper and Rachel. Bruce Cooper scoffed. 1 plus 1, just basic arithmetic. Who can't do that? In middle school, I surpassed a group of high school students and won the first prize in the National Physics Olympiad for middle school students. Bruce Cooper sneered coldly. Just lucky, that's all. Yet, When Lucas Cooper and Rachel won the first prizes in the National Olympiad in Informatics and the National Mathematics Olympiad for middle school students respectively, his face was filled with pride and satisfaction, as expected of my children. So amazing, Dad is so proud of you. Such a hypocritical father isn't worth keeping anyway. Being able to board at school in middle school was a huge blessing for me. It meant I wouldn't have to see Bruce Cooper every single day, logically speaking. Someone like Bruce Cooper, a CEO with a packed schedule, should be holed up in his office all day, grinding away. But no, now he clocks out at 5 p.m. every day, comes home, immediately smothers Luna with kisses, and then the family eats dinner together like some ordinary household. After dinner, he bonds with the kids, not including me, and then retreats to the bedroom with Luna at night. The next day, he went to work at 8 o'clock, full of energy and with a radiant glow on his face. Just think about it, really think about it. This guy is practically living better than a god. His assistant said that before Bruce Cooper married Luna, he was indeed a workaholic, with a schedule as packed as a celebrity's, every minute and second meticulously planned, as emotionless as a machine, and suffering from chronic stomach problems accumulated over the years. The assistant is now delighted. The CEO not only has recovered from his stomach issues but also isn't as cold as before. In short, he's much more human now. His kindness often comes at my expense. That evening, I was walking home with Lucas Cooper and Rachel. As we passed through a narrow path, a few rowdy punks blocked our way. We turned around only to find more punks cutting off our retreat. The leader of the gang wore a skull necklace around his neck, with a scorpion tattoo on his exposed arm, looking every bit the troublemaker. He sized us up with narrowed eyes, as if weighing whether we three lambs were plump enough. One of the thugs stepped forward, dragging his words lazily. "Hey, little classmates, how about giving us some cash to buy a pack of smokes?" I quietly turned on my phone's recorder. "What did you say?" Another punk grew impatient. "Are you deaf or what? I'm telling you to hand over the money right now." Lucas Cooper's dark brows furrowed, a flash of menace crossing his strikingly handsome yet icy expression as he stepped between me and Rachel. The veins on the back of his hand bulged, revealing how hard he was restraining himself. But I knew Lucas Cooper wasn't the type of school bully who ran with gangs or picked fights on a whim. Born into extraordinary privilege, he was rational and aloof. No one at school would dare provoke him. Even if someone displeased him, he would quietly retaliate behind the scenes, leaving no trace afterward. Due to his personality and experiences, he had hardly ever been in a physical fight, so unfortunately, he lacked real combat experience. "So, from now on, it's still my show," Lucas Cooper said calmly. "We can give you the money, but you have to let us go." The gang leader curled his lips in a fake smile and said, "Of course," though he said so, his murky eyes were fixed intently on me and Rachel. Rachel's face showed no panic, but her tightly clenched sleeves betrayed her inner tension. Lucas Cooper's face darkened, barely suppressing his anger. I smirked and stepped out from behind him. "And what if we don't?" The gang leader laughed in anger. "Don't? Seems like you don't want to leave. Boys, get them." The thugs were about to close in on us. "Lucas Cooper?" I tossed my backpack and phoned to him, my eyes gleaming with excitement. "Protect Rachel." "Scared?" "No, I'm thrilled to death. My fingers are trembling with excitement." A ready-made punching bag. Who the hell wouldn't love this? For over a decade, I've been stewing in rage at home because of that bastard father of mine. With no outlet for my anger, I was practically developing internal injuries from holding it all in. See, here comes the perfect punching bag. Besides, I recorded everything, so I'll still have the upper hand afterward. Ha. Thank you for delivering yourselves right to my doorstep. "Be careful," Bruce Cooper warned. I darted out like the wind, sweeping one scrawny thug off his feet with a kick, then punched the guy next to him square in the face. An enraged gangster lunged at me, only to get flipped over my shoulder and slammed onto another one of his buddies. In the chaos, I found an opening, leaped onto the wall for leverage, kicked off, and with a swift turn, delivered a powerful kick straight to the gang leader's chest. Crack! The heartbreaking sound of bones breaking echoed, so damn satisfying. It's been ages since I've let loose like this, so even though Lucas Cooper, Rachel, and I are now sitting in the police station waiting for our parents to pick us up, I still feel refreshed and happily hum a tune. these troublemakers have a record at the police station for extortion, but because the amount was small and the circumstances weren't severe, they were locked up for a few days and then released. The police are also fed up with them, until they kicked the iron plate. Me, this might be the first time a small-time thug ended up in the hospital instead of the police station after trying to extort someone. I declared righteously, "Officer, we acted in self-defense." Bruce Cooper arrived at the police station with no desire to speak anymore. Exhausted yet calm, he said, "All right, Stella, what have you done this time?" "Me, some punks tried to extort the three of us, so I beat them up and sent them to the hospital." I shook my phone, and a clear recording played. "What did you say? Are you deaf? I told you to hand over the damn money." "You can have the money, but you have to let us go, of course." "What if we refuse?" "Refuse? Seems you don't want to leave. Boys, get them." "Lucas Cooper, protect Rachel." Then came the sounds of chaos, with punches landing squarely on flesh. I blinked my eyes, spread my hands, knowing my expression was one of utter innocence and harmlessness. The instigator is the villain, and besides, they threw the first punch. Rachel peeked out and whispered softly, "Sister, you is telling the truth. They didn't just want money, they also wanted to." Lucas Cooper said coldly. At that moment, they were all staring shamelessly at Sister Yu and Xiao Ran. It's obvious to anyone what those punks were trying to do. Bruce Cooper's eyes flashed with coldness upon hearing the children's words. He waved his hand, instructing his assistant to handle the matter, and then led us away. "How badly did you hurt them?" Lucas Cooper asked in a low voice. I sucked on my lollipop. "Don't worry. I know my limits, at most a few broken ribs and some knocked out teeth." Rachel's eyes sparkled with admiration as she said in a worshipful tone, "Sister Yu is amazing." Lucas Cooper slowly exhaled, his expression gradually firming with determination. For several days, I hardly saw him after school. When I asked Rachel, I found out that Lucas Cooper had Bruce Cooper arrange a combat coach for him, and he went there to train every day after school. It seems that the incident with the thugs really hit him hard. Lucas Cooper, who had been a prodigy since childhood, couldn't tolerate such a glaring weakness in himself, being unable to even protect his own family. TSK, the boy shows promise. Before I transmigrated into this novel, I had always been that model child that parents held up as an example. I skipped 2 grades in elementary school and 1 in middle school. By my first year of high school, I had already won a gold medal in the International Physics Olympiad, securing a guaranteed admission to Q University, the top-ranked institution in the country. Back then, I shared Bruce Cooper's mindset. I didn't want to waste time, so, after receiving the university's offer, I naturally enrolled early and then spent years grinding in academia, pushing myself to the limit, until I ended up transmigrating into this novel. I'm so damn tired. In this lifetime, I'll never skip grades again. I want to truly enjoy this leisure time. In high school, Rachel, Lucas Cooper and I still attended the same school, but we weren't in the same class. They were in the advanced class, while I was in the regular one, because during the high school entrance exam, I had a fever and dozed off in the math test. When I woke up, there were only 10 minutes left. High fever plus nervousness plus rapid brain processing nearly fried my CPU. The answers came naturally as I read the questions. Fill in the blanks were manageable, but for the essay questions, "I don't have 8 arms, thank you very much." Skip most steps and write the final answer directly. This caused me to lose nearly half of my math score. My scores in other subjects were quite good, but math dragged me down. Even though my total score was significantly higher than the average of that high school, it still fell short of the admission cutoff for the advanced class. I didn't pay much attention to it, though. High school is just a stepping stone for me. In my previous life, I didn't stay in the first year of high school for long before going to university, but in my impression, high school should be pure, passionate, and full of youthful energy, with everyone striving for their ideals. Before I was cornered by several girls in the restroom, I truly believed that. So, what's the situation now? Before they made a move, I was still quite open to discussion. "May I ask what you need from me?" A girl with pierced ears glared venomously and said to the leader, who looked quite attractive, "Lily sis, that's her, the shameless one who seduced Lucas Cooper." Another girl pointed at me and added, "I saw it too, on the basketball court. Lucas Cooper, the top student who ignores everyone except his sister." actually took the water she handed him. She even dared to grab Lucas Cooper's hand, and he didn't push her away. I recognized the girl called Lily Sis. She was in my class. And her name was Lily Smith, a girl with such a lovely name. Yet swayed by the words of her little followers, the flames of jealousy burned in her eyes but quickly extinguished. She sneered, "Stella, you don't actually think that just because you share the last name Cooper, you can fantasize about Lucas Cooper accepting you, do you?" I finally understood. They saw me as a love rival. Lucas Cooper is my brother. What the hell could I possibly have with him? I just wanted to keep a low profile and not reveal my identity. Is that not allowed? I neither admitted nor denied anything. Seeing their far from friendly attitude, my tone turned cold. "What's between me and Lucas Cooper is none of your damn business." Lily Smith gave me a disdainful glance, raised her hand, and spat out a string of vicious words. "Strip her clothes off and take photos. Stella has such a fox-like face. Why don't we shove her head into the toilet and give her a wash, so she stops seducing people everywhere?" One of the girls beside her giggled maliciously. Brimming with spite, "Use that filthy mop to clean her thirsty body." I listened to their suggestion with a blank expression. So, this is what school bullying looks like. But do they know that since childhood, I've always been the one beating others? 5 minutes later, the bathroom was in complete disarray. With a gentle smile on my face but a vicious intent in my actions, I pressed the toilet flush button, the sound of rushing water filling the air. Then grabbed the head of the girl who had suggested washing my face in the toilet and shoved it toward the bowl. My voice was soft, yet it carried the whisper of a demon. "Dare to bully me? Didn't you bother to find out what kind of person I am?" The girl trembled in fear. I was wrong. Woo woo, gurgle gurgle. I don't know what came to mind, but I chuckled softly. "Do you know how many ribs I broke on the last punk who dared to blackmail me, or how long he lay in the hospital?" I suddenly yanked her head up. Her gaze was filled with sheer panic and terror, her face wet, whether from tears or toilet water was unclear, her hair sticking greasily to her cheek. Her voice trembled with sobs. "Please let me go. I know I was wrong." I let go of her in disgust. Lily Smith was thrown to the ground by me in a humiliating manner just now. And her forehead was scraped. She screamed, "My dad is the dean of academics. He won't let you get away with this." I continued to laugh, playing the dad card. "Fine, my dad is Bruce Cooper, my brother is Lucas Cooper, my sister is Rachel. Now, it doesn't matter if they know." Watching her eyes widen in terror, her face filled with disbelief. "Impossible. I've never heard that Lucas has an older sister." As for Bruce Cooper, he belonged to a social class she could never hope to reach in her lifetime. I pulled a clean tissue from my pocket and meticulously dried my hands. "Believe it or not, I sincerely advise you to thoroughly investigate my family background before filing any complaints." In the days that followed, everything remained calm and uneventful. It's just that those girls couldn't help but look at me with tension and fear in their eyes. TSK. So easily frightened after all, they didn't come to me. But my own father was the first to seek me out. I raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Cooper, you know again. This time, I didn't ask the teacher to invite you for tea in the office." Bruce Cooper looked at me. No matter how old I was, I never acted properly, his veins throbbing on his forehead. "Stella, here," I responded lazily. "Sometimes I really wish you could be like your mother, framing others behind their backs, playing the victim to gain sympathy, and manipulating everyone from behind the scenes." I was surprised. "Didn't you hate it the most when I acted like my mother?" "Bruce Cooper, I'm tired." Bruce Cooper exuded exhaustion from his soul to his body. "Your mother always manages to leave no trace, while you always leave your messes for me to clean up. I've become numb from cleaning up after you. Do you think the incident of you beating up your classmates is just over? It was only because I had the principal suppress the matter 2 days ago. Otherwise, you'd have another bully label slapped on your head." "But they started it, I know, but in the eyes of your classmates, you're the one who walked away unscathed. That makes you the bully." "Thanks, it's the anti-bullying one." Bruce Cooper said he had nothing to say to me. On the day I turned 18 and became an adult, Bruce Cooper handed me a folder. I opened it without understanding why, and my pupils constricted. "That's 13% of the Cooper family group's shares, Mr. Cooper." I closed the folder, looking puzzled. "Are you planning to transfer the shares to me?" My birth was far from honorable. Lucas Cooper and Rachel are the rightful heirs. I'm not particularly drawn to power, even though I've been slacking off a bit in this life. I'm more interested in academia. Not that I'm truly passionate about it, otherwise I wouldn't have fought tooth and nail for it in my past life. Therefore, the shares of the Cooper family group hold little appeal for me. Did they all agree? I asked. Bruce Cooper's tone wasn't exactly pleasant. What else? My expression was somewhat complicated. When it comes to shares, naturally, it's up to the CEO, Bruce Cooper. I don't hate this father of mine, much less love him. From childhood to adulthood, his sarcastic remarks towards me never really stopped, and I always fought back, making him furious to the point of stomping his feet. But all of this was built upon the foundation of me possessing an adult soul. What if I had truly been just a child? At the age of 5, when I needed my parents the most, I was abandoned by my biological mother and despised by my biological father, faced with an endless stream of malice from the outside world. What kind of person would a weak and helpless little girl grow up to be? I can't even imagine. Even now, as he places such important shares in my hands, my heart remains calm to the point of indifference. Before I came of age, my definition of him was simply my guardian. That's all there was to it. I'm an adult now, so his status is invalid, so I refused. Bruce Cooper's eyes remained calm, as if he had anticipated this outcome. I said coolly, "You never liked me anyway, no need to force yourself." Bruce Cooper didn't argue, "But you are still my daughter after all." I chuckled lightly. "Just an ill-fated relationship, Mr. Cooper, no need to dwell on it." As for the cliché of a father having a sudden epiphany years later, weeping bitterly with regret over his actions toward his daughter, that would absolutely never happen with Bruce Cooper. He was the male lead, proud, exceptional, and heaven's favored one. He was tricked by my mother due to a momentary lapse of attention, and all the breakups and reconciliations with the female lead were influenced by my mother's interference. He deeply loved the female lead and also cherished Lucas Cooper and Rachel. Therefore, his dislike for me is genuine. His indifference towards me is real, his disgust towards me is also real. All these years, not a single thing has changed. Even though I'm almost as outstanding as Lucas Cooper and Rachel, I harbor no filial affection or attachment toward him. When they learned I had rejected Bruce Cooper's shares, neither Lucas Cooper nor Rachel seemed surprised. Our relationship remained as usual. After successfully entering university, both Lucas Cooper and Rachel found their respective partners, like protagonists. They always meet another protagonist. I sincerely feel happy for them. I remain all alone. During that time, many outstanding men pursued me, but I politely declined them all. I immerse myself in things that interest me, indulging in academic research. Without family, without a man, I still live well. This day, while relaxing and reading a magazine, I came across this sentence: I live to please myself, not to be troubled by others. Yes, life is just a few short decades. Don't live in the gaze of others or get trapped in their idle talk. We are independent individuals. We are brilliant stars. We must live for ourselves. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My father called me a murderer because I stubbornly refused to let them have a second child. My younger sister was aborted later, when my brother was born. Consumed by guilt over my sister, I devoted nearly my entire life to him. Only upon death did I realize my parents aborted my sister simply because she was a girl, and my wishes had nothing to do with it. Opening my eyes again, I found myself back at the age of 5. Once more, I heard my father say to me, "Your mom is going to give you a little sister. She doesn't want you anymore. Your mom is going to give you a little sister. She doesn't want you anymore." My unusually young father beamed with joy as he uttered these cruel words, trying his best to make me cry, but I was only stunned for a moment before speaking happily, "Great, I'm going to have a little sister." He was quite dissatisfied with my reaction and wanted to say more. I had already rushed out of the yard, sharing this joy with the neighbors basking in the sun outside. Grandpa James grinned, showing his yellow teeth, and said, "With a little sister, your mom won't want you anymore." Aunt Wendy chimed in, "From now on, you'll have to share all the good food and fun things with your sister." I tilted my head back, hands on my hips, and declared, "I'll give everything to my sister. I love her." Everyone burst into laughter. "You're still too young to understand anything." I laughed along with them. I actually got reborn. After working myself to death to support my vampire-like younger brother, I returned to 40 years ago. In my previous life, it was on this very day that my father told me about my mother being pregnant with a second child. At that time, I was only 5 years old and had no real understanding of what having another family member meant, but my father told me that if I had a little sister, my mother wouldn't want me anymore. All the good food and fun things would no longer be mine, they would all go to my sister. I was made to cry by him and ran out of the yard. The neighbors asked me what happened, and I told them with grievance, only to receive a gleeful affirmation. No one knew how terrified I was at that moment. When my mother came back, I threw myself into her arms and hysterically said I didn't want a sister. A few days later, my mother, looking pale and weak, told me that since I disliked my little sister so much, they had aborted her. Before I could even feel happy, my father called me a murderer. He said it was all because of me that my sister was aborted, that I had killed her. Though a 5-year-old's mind is not fully developed, it possesses an almost stubborn sense of justice. I still vividly remember my physical reaction when my father declared me a murderer. My mind went blank, my limbs went numb, and my entire body was ensnared by an invisible net, so tight I could barely breathe. I was both terrified and miserable, wanting to cry, but I was so shocked that I couldn't even manage to shed a tear. My mother, unaware of my distress, chimed in from the side, "Sarah, from now on you're a murderer." After that, whenever I wanted something, they would say, "A murderer doesn't have the right to make so many demands." If I didn't obey, they'd threaten to call the police and have the officers take me away as a murderer. I lived in constant fear that the police might come to execute me at any moment. I would often wake up crying and screaming from nightmares, but my father said it was because I had killed my sister and was haunted by her vengeful spirit. I was in a daze, stumbling and falling even on flat ground, accidentally disfiguring myself with a pencil I was holding, yet my father still wouldn't let me off, saying that killing my sister was heaven's punishment for me. During that time, my mother became pregnant twice more, but both times she miscarried inexplicably at around 4 or 5 months. My father said it was because I had killed my sister, and no one dared to be reborn into our family. I suffered immensely until my brother was born, due to the persistent psychological torment from childhood. Even after receiving formal education from the state, I still deeply believed my father's words. Out of guilt towards her 3 younger sisters, she treated her only born brother extremely well. As a child, she took great care of him, and when she grew up, she worked hard to earn money to buy him a car and a house. Because I was constantly frightened by my parents, I was in a daze all day, and my grades were naturally very poor. After graduating from junior high school, I went to work in an unregulated factory. With a disfigured face and facing constant rejection, earning a living became even harder than for ordinary people, making life extremely tough. By my 40s, I was already plagued by severe illnesses due to overwork. I didn't want to spend money, let alone burden my family. After losing the ability to work, I returned to the old house in the countryside to await death. I wonder if my sister has been reincarnated yet. If not, would she still resent me if she saw me? When I said this, Dad laughed and called me crazy. He said because he and Mom were determined to have a son. The 3 sisters in between were all aborted. It had nothing to do with me, so I could die in peace. The impact these words had on me was no less than when Dad declared me a murderer. I desperately wanted to confront him. If that's the case, why did he call me a murderer? Why did he place all the blame on me? But by then, I was already too weak, unable even to raise my voice. I could only die with deep resentment, my eyes refusing to close in death. Perhaps it was precisely for this reason that I was reborn, returning to the beginning of the mistake. At 5 years old, my parents could use my naive ignorance to conceal their hypocrisy. I can also borrow this identity to carry out my revenge. When Mom came home from work, the first thing she told me was that I was going to have a little sister. She just stared at me, expecting me to throw a tantrum, making the abortion seem justified. Unfortunately, she's going to be disappointed. I happily rushed to her and gently touched my mother's belly. "Sister, I'm going to have a sister." "Mom, I love having a sister." My mother frowned. "What's so good about a sister? She'll be cunning and take your things." "No need for her to take," I said. "I'll give everything to my sister." Despite my great expectations for my little sister, Mom still had an abortion. looking at her pale face. I asked knowingly, "Mom, what's wrong?" My mom sighed. I was too exhausted from work and couldn't keep the baby. In our small town, the preference for sons over daughters is severe. The reasons for abortion are almost always related to gender issues. For every illegal clinic that performs fetal gender identification and gets shut down, another one pops up soon after. Having a son is a mandatory goal that every family must achieve. Despite this, everyone remains silent about the real reasons behind these abortions. They will find all sorts of excuses to cover up the truth. In my past life, I was their excuse, selfish and stubbornly refusing to accept my sister. In this life, my longing for my sister is known to all, so the excuse has shifted to my mother's workload. It's all because you're disobedient that mom is so exhausted. My dad is keen on blaming all problems on me. This is how you raise an obedient and filial daughter, willingly becoming the family's blood supply. Unfortunately, I'm no longer the little girl who can be easily intimidated, so I tilted my head and said with a serious face, "It's not my fault. Clearly, it was you who wanted a son and killed my sister." "Who said that?" My father's face darkened as he looked toward the yard, his gaze settling on the gossiping neighbors, but I pointed behind him and murmured, "My little sister told me." My parents instinctively looked in the direction I pointed, but there was nothing there except the half-open wardrobe. They glanced at each other, both looking confused. They didn't realize that the little sister I mentioned was actually the daughter they had aborted. They simply thought some neighbor's child had said something to me and was now hiding in our wardrobe. My father strode over and flung both doors open wide. "What are you doing in my wardrobe?" The response was a chaotic pile of clothes. My father's face turned deathly pale, his lips trembling, but not a single word escaped them. "Whose child is this?" My mother's view was blocked by my father. She walked over with weary steps, then froze completely. At that moment, every hair standing on end manifested in the most vivid way possible on my mother's body. She let out a scream and ran out in panic. My father suddenly snapped out of his daze, clenching his fists to force himself to calm down. He gritted his teeth and asked me, "Which sister are you talking about? Where is she?" I stared at him and said word by word, "The sister you aborted. Isn't she standing right beside you?" At this point, my father couldn't hold on either. With a strange cry, he also ran out. I watched their disheveled state with a cold laugh in my heart. I immediately chased after them, shouting, "Sister, sister, where are you going?" Grandpa James asked me with a gossipy expression, "Sarah, what's wrong with your parents? Why are they in such a hurry?" Aunt Wendy wasn't focused on that. Instead, she was very curious about what I had said. "Sarah, what did you say about your sister?" Aunt Wendy was the most superstitious. My parents' reaction and my words gave her some clues. She was just like this in my past life. My parents only said those things to control me, but she took them seriously and spread them everywhere. "I tell everyone that I deserve to be haunted because my selfishness killed my sister." The neighbors initially dismissed such claims, but after my face was disfigured in an inexplicable way, her vivid descriptions made many half believe it, thinking I was haunted by a vengeful spirit, and I was almost completely isolated by everyone. I stopped chasing after my parents, pointed beside her feet, and said, "That's the sister my mom killed. Isn't she right next to you?" A child saying such things is utterly devastating. Before the words even finished echoing, the neighbors who loved gathering to gossip scattered in terror, especially Aunt Wendy, who leapt up from her spot and ran what seemed like 80 feet away. I wasn't about to let her off that easily and started running after her. "Sister, Aunt Wendy, you took my sister away." Seeing this, Aunt Wendy, who was already pale, rolled her eyes and fainted. A few hours later, when my parents returned, the entire neighborhood knew that our family was haunted by my unborn sister. But the two of them didn't realize everyone knew. They pretended to be calm and brought a self-proclaimed exorcist to our house to drive away the ghost, claiming it was just a relative visiting. Everyone saw through it but didn't say a word, instinctively stepping away from my parents. My father, being quite sensitive, vaguely sensed something was off, but his eagerness to drive out the ghost kept him from asking further. He just grabbed me by the collar and dragged me back home. "Tell me, where's the ghost?" As soon as we entered, my father couldn't wait to pull me to the side of the cabinet. "Ghost? There's no ghost here, only little sister." My words once again threw my father into a panic. He abruptly let go of me and, in 2 quick steps, hid behind the Taoist priest. Taoist priest, look, she just said that. The priest, probably accustomed to children's nonsense, didn't take it seriously. It's all right, I'll prepare some talisman water for you. Just give it to her whenever she says she sees a ghost. A few doses should do the trick. As he spoke, he displayed the payment QR code, $888. My dad complained about the price while pulling out his phone. I sneered inwardly and called out a name, Bob. The Taoist priest shuddered and looked at me in horror. You, how do you know my real name? Of course I know his name. Bob was an outsider who suddenly appeared half a year ago. After idling around for a while, he transformed into a religious charlatan. Not only did he go around deceiving people, but he also preyed on everyone's desire for sons, persuading many to give away or even abandon their newborn baby girls. Bob isn't very famous yet. He's just found his way and started making some small money by compromising his conscience. In a few more years, he will become widely renowned through self-packaging. More and more people seeking children will come to him for his reputation, growing increasingly greedy. Neither fame nor money can satisfy him anymore. He begins to deceive families who want children, demanding the sacrifice of their daughters. Nearly 1 in 10 underage girls here, and even some young boys, have fallen victim to his abuse. Later, a girl he had victimized grew up and bravely came forward to expose his crimes, leading to his eventual arrest and punishment. Only then did people realize that the revered Taoist priest they had idolized was actually a fugitive who had attempted murder. I stared straight at Bob and said word by word, "That man isn't dead, you can go back in peace." He involuntarily took a step back. "What did you say?" I deliberately lowered my voice and revealed the details of his conflict with someone. Bob's face changed colors repeatedly, and in the end, he said nothing, rushing out the door in a panic. The group of neighbors eavesdropping outside the door awkwardly scattered like startled birds. I called out to them, "Quick, call the police, Bob is a fugitive." Everyone looked stunned, but only Aunt Wendy, who firmly believed in such things, responded and ran home to call the police. Within half an hour, the police arrived in our neighborhood to investigate. Bob was indeed a fugitive and had already been arrested. If people had only half believed my claim about seeing the so-called sister before, now they were completely convinced. My parents, watching the chattering neighbors and the stern-faced police officers, remained utterly bewildered. When it was their turn to be questioned, they no longer dared to claim Bob was their relative and quickly told the truth to distance themselves. The police gave them a lecture and then asked how they knew Bob was a fugitive. My father pointed at me. "She said it." The policeman looked at me suspiciously, while I lowered my head to fiddle with a piece of paper. "Little one, can Uncle have a chat with you?" I looked up, pretending to be naive. "Sure, Officer Uncle, if Mom and Dad are murderers, can you arrest them?" The officer's expression instantly turned serious, and my father's face went pale as he hurriedly explained. With all the neighbors present, they heard my parents reluctantly admit that they had aborted my sister in their pursuit of having a son. I was also listening attentively nearby. When he finished speaking, I spoke up. "But you killed my sister, so you'll never have a son in this lifetime, little one," the officer said gently. "This doesn't count as murder. You mustn't call your parents murderers anymore." I nodded. "Yes, but they can't have a son anymore. My sister wouldn't agree to it. Your uncle has already scolded your parents on your sister's behalf. Don't be too upset." As the police car drove away, the crowd turned their attention to me. Surrounding me, fear of the unknown was overcome by curiosity. And everyone started asking me questions about Bob, talking over each other. I told them about Bob's attempted murder back in our hometown. When they asked how I knew, I glanced at the empty space beside me and smiled. My little sister told me. Everyone fell silent, not saying another word as they each went home. My parents' faces grew even paler, standing frozen with me in place. The more afraid they are, the more at ease I feel. They should experience the fear from my past life for themselves. I deliberately put on a sinister smile. "Mom, Dad, let's go home." Early the next morning, my father took me out with dark circles under his eyes. But not to kindergarten. He and I took the bus for nearly an hour to get to my aunt's house. Like me in my previous life, my aunt took care of everything for her younger brother. I was haunted by an evil spirit, and my parents were too scared to keep me, so they dumped me on her. My father didn't even need to explain the reason. He just asked my aunt to take care of me for a while, and she agreed without hesitation. The disfigured uncle stood silently behind my aunt, offering a cake with his claw-like hand in a fawning gesture. Without hesitation, I took it and smiled at him, saying, "Thank you, uncle." His eyes instantly welled up with tears. He probably hadn't seen a child smile at him in a long time. He had once been a brilliant and ambitious top student. But just a year after graduation, he was caught in a devastating fire. His facial features were melted by the burns, his hands deformed, and he barely survived. For my father's job, my aunt willingly married him under my grandmother's arrangement. The only consolation was that my uncle, also forced into the marriage, knew he owed her and treated her extremely well. Sadly, in their previous life, just by the end of this year, they died together in a car accident. I expected to be sent to my aunt's place. Like my younger brother, my father would turn to his sister whenever he couldn't solve a problem. My ultimate goal in playing these tricks wasn't to get back at my parents. It was to make him dump me with my aunt. At just 5 years old, I didn't want to waste my precious time seeking revenge on trash. But if I wanted to live well, my only option for now was to rely on my aunt. When my father left, he didn't forget to take a bunch of things from my aunt's house. She even slipped him $500 to help my mother recover and quickly conceive a son. I just watched coldly as my father took the money without hesitation, then waved at him as he left. "Goodbye, little sister." My father stumbled, nearly dropping what he was holding. My aunt acted swiftly, transferring me to a new kindergarten that afternoon and taking me to enroll at one near her home. She said, "Sarah, your father had no choice but to send you to your aunt's house. Don't blame him." I nodded obediently, seeing in her the shadow of my past self, so I wouldn't show my disgust for my father in front of her, or she would blame herself. We enjoyed a rare period of peace and tranquility. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before my dad came to pick me up. Counting the time, it was when my mom was pregnant with my second younger sister. Perhaps they were still in what I called the fear of being entangled by daughters, but having a son was more important than anything else, so I had to go back to take care of my mom. Since I can remember, I've had endless household chores every day. By the time I was still too young for elementary school, I could already stand on a stool to roll out dough. When my mother was pregnant, she finally had a rare chance to escape chores, probably intending to make my father do them instead. Unfortunately, my father would never serve anyone, so I was brought back to do the work again. Aunt and uncle were very reluctant to part with me. Uncle was infertile and longed to have a child. I heard him tell my aunt that he wanted to transfer my household registration under his name and have them adopt me together, but my aunt knew I would eventually be taken back, so she didn't agree. When my dad came to pick me up, my uncle stuffed a lot of money into his hands, telling him to take good care of me. Before my dad could laugh and accept it, I snatched the money and shoved it back into my uncle's arms. "Little sister won't let them have a son. I'll be back sooner or later." My dad, thinking it was bad luck, quickly covered my mouth and hurried us away. When I got home, my mom was waiting for me to make her favorite hand-pulled noodles. I didn't resist. At 5 years old, I could cook, but my knife skills were still clumsy, so the presentation wasn't great. Yet, in less than 2 months, my cooking improved dramatically, and even the plating became exquisite. "Eat up," I said. "This is the last meal for both of you." My father instinctively raised his hand to slap me, but withdrew it out of fear. "What nonsense are you talking?" I said seriously. It wasn't me who said it, it was my sister. They looked at each other, fear and shock evident in their eyes. I pointed at my mother's belly. "The little sister has gone into mommy's tummy now." My mother glanced at her still flat stomach and abruptly stood up. Her voice was harsh but weak. "If you keep spouting nonsense, I'll beat you to death." I didn't take it seriously. "Even if you beat me, the baby in my belly is still a girl, but she doesn't want to be your child, so she's going to take you both down with her." My knack for making up nonsense on the spot was learned from my dad, who loved to scare me even more when I was already terrified. Meanwhile, my mom would fan the flames, pushing me deeper into the abyss. Now I'm giving it all back to them, making them feel exactly what I felt. In the evening, I returned to the small room converted from a storage space, happily soaking in the anxious and fearful atmosphere at home. My parents didn't seem to be doing anything in particular, and it wasn't until late at night that they finally went back to their bedroom. I waited for a while before running over to knock on the door. "Mom, Dad, open the door. Little sister says she's uncomfortable in mom's belly. My father angrily yanked the door open and, upon seeing the kitchen knife in my hand, let out a frightened scream. What are you doing? My sister wants to come out. After realizing what I was holding, my mother also screamed in panic and hurriedly dialed 911. So, you're saying she was going to kill you? It was the same officer as before. Rubbing his temples with a weary expression, yes, at the time she was holding a kitchen knife. The officer interrupted him. Kids playing with dangerous objects is pretty normal behavior. It's not normal. My mother, terrified that I might gut her, screamed hoarsely. She wants to kill me. Won't kill Mom. The policeman glanced at me, then at my parents who were acting like lunatics. Anyway, this time it's just a verbal warning. If you make a false report again, it won't be let off so easily. They both went to see the policeman out, while I returned to the kitchen, took out the whetstone, and started sharpening the knife. Late at night, the sound of the whetstone grinding against the kitchen knife echoed through the room, incredibly soothing. My father and mother hesitated at the kitchen door for a long time, ultimately choosing to return to the bedroom, lock the door, and pretend not to hear or see. Not long after, my aunt and uncle knocked on our door. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but my parents' tone sounded extremely agitated. Before long, my aunt opened the door to my small room. She must have heard about my supposed possession, standing at the doorway for a long time. Then she walked over, took the kitchen knife from my hand, and gently picked me up. I pretended to have just woken up, opening my eyes. Auntie, why are you here? There was a hint of fear in Auntie's eyes, but her voice remained gentle. Sarah, would you like to come back to Auntie's house with me? I nodded yes, then shook my head no. But I can't bear to part with my little sister. I felt my aunt stiffen, her hands trembling slightly as she held me, yet for the sake of her younger brother, my father, she couldn't back down. She forced a smile and said, then how about we take your little sister with us too? Oh no, my sister said she wants to go with Mom and Dad. My mom screamed in despair, take her away quickly. My dad also shouted at my aunt, why are you talking so much nonsense? Hurry up and take her away. My uncle noticed my aunt's fear and stepped forward, reaching out to take me. My aunt gave me a complicated look but didn't let go. As we passed my parents, my father said to her, find time to complete the adoption paperwork. I was somewhat surprised, knowing my parents as I did, lazy and self-indulgent. I was certain they wouldn't easily let go of an obedient, free laborer like me. I had thought it would take much longer to break free from them, but I hadn't expected them to be so cowardly, giving me up so easily. The next day, under my uncle's urging, my father went through the adoption procedures with them. When my aunt's in-laws found out, they were overjoyed and took me to the mall, wanting to buy me clothes, shoes, and toys, everything they saw. The elderly couple genuinely adored me, since I was legally their granddaughter. They didn't know how else to show their affection. In my past life, I had suffered all my life, so I naturally longed for those things, but I had no choice but to refuse. If Mom and Dad see me living too well, they'll ask Aunt for money, I said. Everyone knew Aunt was a slave to her younger brother, and that she'd been subsidizing my father for years. Uncle's family had some money, and given that Aunt treated him well, he turned a blind eye to it, but if it came to giving more, they wouldn't be willing. My uncle's health still requires annual maintenance, which is also a significant expense, so the elderly couple followed my advice, only buying me 2 sets of affordable yet good quality clothes and taking me to eat the grilled fish I had always longed for in my previous life. When we got home, I happened to hear my aunt telling my uncle that they should give my father more money as compensation for losing their daughter. I sighed. If it were the old me, I might have thought there was nothing wrong with my aunt's approach. Looking back now, it just seems ridiculous, but clearly they were the ones who abandoned me. Why should I compensate him? I asked my aunt. My aunt was stumped by the question. She had been brainwashed this way since childhood. Between her and her younger brother, it was always him who suffered, so she felt she had to compensate. But my question made my aunt realize that her reasons for wanting to support her brother were somewhat inexplicable. I added, Auntie, the money you give to my dad just goes to his gambling. You're actually harming him by doing this. I knew changing my aunt's mindset wouldn't happen with just a few words, but I could approach it from the perspective of someone enabling a dependent brother to reduce her financial support from my father after several months of peaceful life. My aunt told me she wanted to take me to stay at their place for a while. My mom went for an ultrasound, and it was another girl, so she had an abortion. My dad asked my aunt to take care of her during the postpartum recovery. In the past, I could have taken good care of my mom, but now they're truly afraid of me, so they had to ask my aunt instead. The reason they wanted my aunt to bring me along was probably that they still couldn't let go and wanted to see how I would behave. If I stopped talking nonsense, perhaps they still want me back. These two utterly lazy people. Without me, their lives would probably be a complete mess. I obediently followed Auntie back home. They didn't clean up her room, so she had to squeeze into the small room I used to sleep in with me. Auntie spent the whole night cleaning up the piles of trash they had accumulated over days. Exhausted and sore, she finally returned to the room. As I massaged her shoulders, I sighed. He never treated you as family. My aunt, long accustomed to me speaking like an adult, remained silent, but I knew she heard me. In a way, she was me from my past life, so I know all too well that her unconditional kindness toward my father was simply because she never felt loved by our grandparents, and thus pinned her hopes on her younger brother. Unfortunately, the person who cared the least about her in this world was the very brother she gave her heart and soul to. The next day, my father had my aunt take care of my mother while he took me to kindergarten, but in truth, he never actually took me there, because the new kindergarten was a bit too far from home. He took me straight to the office, dumped me with the interns, and then completely ignored me. Naturally, I didn't miss such a golden opportunity. With the innocence of a child, I told the interns how my dad exploited his position for personal gain. I even pulled in passers-by to listen to my stories. In my previous life, a few years later, the company faced restructuring. When they reviewed past records, they discovered many discrepancies in the accounts my father had handled. My father paid a lot of money to avoid going to jail. He borrowed money everywhere and even considered marrying me off to an old man at one point. I was just starting middle school then, and the man thought I was too young. So he didn't take me. Now that I have the chance to make his life difficult, I naturally won't miss it. So, before lunchtime even arrived, my dad got fired. What's more, the company is planning to pursue legal action against him. My dad didn't want to go home. With a dark expression, he pulled me along, intending to head to the mahjong parlor. Just my rotten luck. Let's go change my fortune. At the moment, he wasn't too concerned about losing his job because his sister would definitely find him another one. It's not bad luck, I told them. My dad froze for a moment. Told them what? Told your boss to fire you, of course. Before my father could react, I darkened my expression again and muttered mysteriously, little sister said you'll never have a good life in this lifetime, during the time I was away, without me pretending to be possessed. My father had almost forgotten about the sister they had casually aborted. Now that it was brought up again, he realized once more that I was no longer his timid, obedient daughter, but a monster. Expressions of fear and panic flickered across his face in rapid succession. He wanted to say something, but when he opened his mouth, nothing came out. I just watched him silently seethe with frustration, saying nothing from the sidelines. Finally, my dad gritted his back teeth, as if making some kind of decision. Sarah, how about Daddy takes you to the park? Before I could respond, he sharply turned the wheel and drove toward the outskirts. My father took me to a wetland park, where a wide river cut through the landscape. Ignoring the warning signs, he descended the dirt slope, gripping my arm and dragging me to the riverbank. Sarah, my father said, his voice trembling with excitement, look, little fish. I could roughly guess what he was trying to do. And although shocked, I wasn't afraid. In my previous life, when I worked part-time at the swimming pool, my supervisor taught me how to swim. We often swam for a while after the pool closed before starting to clean up. I followed his lead, standing on tiptoe to look in the direction he pointed. Go to hell. Before the words even finished, my father kicked me into the water. Dad, help me, Dad, save me. I shouted with all my might, even if the cameras couldn't see. I wanted them to capture my voice. Then, I pretended to lose strength and slowly sank beneath the surface. Through the clear river water, I saw my father's calm figure walking away. Holding my breath, I stayed submerged a while longer, making sure he couldn't see me before coming ashore. I didn't rush home. Instead, dripping wet, I accidentally wandered to the park management office, frantically begging them to save me. deliberately withholding my home address and parents' phone number. I just kept repeating, "My dad wants to kill me." Here, a girl's life is cheap, and a little girl's life is even cheaper, so even with irrefutable evidence, my father might not face any real punishment, my mother would forgive him, and my aunt, his own sister, now my legal mother, would never hold him accountable. I have to find a way to seek justice for myself. The next morning, I was taken to the police station and waited for my aunt to arrive. Just over 10 hours had passed. Yet strands of white hair had appeared at her temples. I felt guilty, but there was no other way to make her realize the truth. Aunt was sobbing uncontrollably. I don't know how my father explained it to her, but she must have guessed what he had done to me. I gently wiped the tears from her face. "Mom, will you be my mom? Let Uncle be my dad. I'm so scared." Although we were in an adoptive relationship, my aunt had always refused to let me change how I addressed them, fearing my father might take me back. But today, she finally saw my father's true colors and agreed without hesitation. Yes, my aunt ignored my father for the time being, and my mother couldn't accept the fact that he intended to drown me, so she had a big fight with him. But they didn't call the police, and no outsiders knew what this man had done to his own daughter. Unfortunately, I don't know how to keep secrets. After resting at home for a few days, the first thing I did when I returned to kindergarten was to tell my teacher that my father had almost killed me. The teacher thought I was talking nonsense, but after hearing my vivid description, he hesitated for a long time before finally deciding to call the police. 2 days later, my aunt received a call from the police. My father had been arrested. Not only was my voice caught on surveillance footage, but a fisherman nearby had also unintentionally captured the scene of my father kicking me into the river and walking away indifferently. My aunt grew anxious and urged my uncle to quickly find someone to figure out a solution. I grabbed her hand, trying to calm her down. "Mom, if we don't teach him a lesson, he might really kill someone in the future. How could you face the Chen family then?" "That's right, honey. You're actually harming him by doing this." After a long silence, my aunt sighed. I exchanged a glance with my uncle and secretly breathed a sigh of relief as well. Although my aunt didn't press charges, my father still wasn't sentenced, because the hospital determined that he had schizophrenia. He was convinced I was trying to harm him, saying I was possessed by a ghost and wanted to kill me, so he struck first to get the upper hand. The doctor thought he had persecutory delusions, a key indicator of schizophrenia. In my previous life, I endured his psychological abuse for over 40 years, yet it was never like this. He couldn't handle being intimidated by me just a few times. How laughable, given the existing social harm. My father was forcibly committed to a psychiatric facility. Aunt cried for a long time, feeling guilty towards the deceased grandparents. My mother filed for a forced divorce, intending to take my father's house for herself and return to her parents' home. However, the house actually belonged to my uncle. And when her family found out she was haunted by something unclean, they considered her bad luck and refused to let her return. Her good days were over, and she became homeless. Aunt was down for a while, but not for long. Uncle and I kept cheering her up all day, helping her quickly move past her self-blame. One day, the digital artwork Uncle had been quietly working on at home won a major award. Along with a $30,000 prize, he was as happy as a child. "Let's go soak in the hot springs in the mountains and stay overnight." His aunt was happy for him but didn't agree. That must be really expensive. She knew she had spent a lot of her uncle's money for my dad's sake, so she was very frugal. "Once or twice is fine, Jenny, don't you think so?" I nodded vigorously. "Yes, I'm really looking forward to this. My first trip in 2 lifetimes. Right now I'm still young, spending aunt and uncle's money. When I grow up, I'll work hard to earn money and spend it on them." By the way, I changed my name from Sarah to Jenny. As soon as Uncle knew I would be living with them permanently, the first thing he did was change my name, so the weekend getaway was settled just like that. The weather in November was still quite warm, but halfway through Auntie's drive, as we got farther from the city, snowflakes suddenly began to drift down from the sky. I sat in the passenger seat, watching the snowflakes land on the windshield and instantly melt. When a wave of endless panic suddenly washed over me, I'm not entirely sure about the exact time of my aunt and uncle's accident in my previous life, only that it happened on the first snowfall day, and they died in a traffic accident. So, is it today? I started crying and throwing a tantrum, insisting on going home immediately. My aunt and uncle doted on me. When their attempts to comfort me failed, they turned around at the nearest service area without hesitation and headed home. However, money still had to be spent. We went to the mall and treated Grandpa and Grandma to a big meal. The next day, Aunt asked me with a pale face, "Jenny, why did you insist on going home yesterday? It seems there was indeed a serious traffic accident yesterday, but we managed to avoid it." I suddenly felt very scared, afraid. Afraid of what? I don't know. Auntie didn't press further, just held me tightly without saying a word. I patted her trembling body, unable to control her shivers. "It's all in the past now. From now on our family will be fine." In second grade, my dad was discharged from the mental hospital. Perhaps it was the forced medication despite being healthy that left him utterly dispirited, as if he had truly developed a mental illness. My aunt, heartbroken, wanted to bring him to live with us. My father glanced at me standing behind my aunt, his eyes darting away as he repeatedly refused. Even when offered a job, he turned it down, maybe to avoid me. My dad went to work in another city. The man who used to shamelessly leech off my aunt now occasionally sends money back. My aunt refused it, but he said it was for me. He wants to make up for not fulfilling his fatherly duties in the past. Auntie was filled with emotion. Her younger brother had finally grown up. However, the good times didn't last. Within just 3 years, my father suffered a severe injury due to a coworker's violation of safety protocols, leaving him with little time left. Auntie and her husband rushed me to the local hospital overnight. As I watched him clinging to life, I felt nothing inside. Aunt and uncle quickly left the ward and closed the door. I stood by the hospital bed, looking down at him in silence. "Sarah, my name is Jenny now. Jenny, I'm going to die. Your sister, forgive. Will you, forgive?" I clenched my hands tightly, trying hard to control my body, which was trembling slightly with excitement from the moment I was reborn. I had been looking forward to this day. I hoped for a scene like this to dissolve the resentment in my heart, but I never thought this day would come so quickly. I couldn't help but laugh, yet my heart felt heavy, because through my father, I saw my miserable past self. But still, as I had always imagined, I interrupted him. "What are you thinking? There was never any sister. It was just an excuse I made to stop you from having a brother." My father's pleading gaze seemed to freeze, then turned into anger, but before he could say anything, he took one last breath, his eyes wide open, and died just like that, so abruptly, numbly. I pulled open the door, walked out, and told my aunt. Aunt rushed in crying, and I stood there somewhat bewildered, suddenly unsure of where to go or what to do. "Jenny, don't be sad. You still have me and your mom," Uncle said, gently ruffling my hair with his deformed hand. I looked up at Uncle, seeing the worry in his eyes, and finally let out the turbid air in my heart. "Yes, I still have them. My life is about to embark on a completely new chapter." After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.